The system instructed me to conquer the male protagonist, a heartless and cold-hearted yandere endowed with the ability to read minds since childhood, who grew up to be solitary and brooding. After a moment of contemplation, I resolved to enter the world when the male protagonist was merely 1 year old. System. From this day forth, I shall assume the role of his guardian, teaching him the laws, instilling respect for women, fostering optimism, and guiding him to be a good person. I stated, my expression unwavering that a successful conquest must begin with education. The system was persuaded by my reasoning. You are correct. Thus, on that snowy day, I cradled the 1-year-old male protagonist, Ing Huanxue, who had been abandoned at the hospital. 6 years later, within the confines of the welfare institution I operated, he asked me in a sweet, childish voice, "Director, what does conquer mean?" I gently ruffled his hair, replying, "It means I want you to feel the warmth and love of this world." AT7, Ing Huanxue's eyes sparkled with delight as he twirled in joy, exclaiming, "I love you too, Director." Surrounding him were his future subordinates, collaborators, rivals, and the embodiment of his dreams, all clamoring, "I love the Director most." System. The male protagonist's affection level is maxed out. Mission accomplished for the host. Is it truly possible to achieve this? One that after succumbing to a work-related death, I was compelled to bind myself to a system and undertake a conquest mission. The system transmitted to me the original content, and as I gazed upon the image of a serene yet indifferent youth, I fell into deep thought. He was being trampled upon, battered and bruised, his eyes filled with a lifeless gray, detached from the world around him. The system stated matter-of-factly, "Upon your arrival in this world, you may take him home, but at this moment, he is working outside, enduring relentless bullying which may lead him to distrust you. Thus, you must win him over with love. Furthermore, he has a childhood sweetheart, his white moonlight. According to the analysis, misunderstandings will arise upon their reunion." I interrupted, "How old is he?" "He appears to be merely a teenager." IT hesitated. "This is a photo of him at 14. "Then why is he working outside?" I frowned. "At this age, he should be studying." System. He lacks funds and has dropped out. Compulsory education lasts 9 years. The welfare institution should cover his tuition fees. I pointed out, the institution he entered is clearly not legitimate. The system seemed bewildered. Is that so?" "It appears that the system in this region is also inadequate." I mused for a moment. "Send me into this world. I have devised a plan." The system perked up. "So, which time point will you choose? Is it when he is 14 and being insulted by a customer, or when he is 18 and unconscious in an alley, or perhaps at 23? I replied, "Of course, it is when he is 1 year old." System. When Ing Huanxue was born, he was frail and sickly. His father was unknown, and his mother perished during childbirth. At the age of 1, he was abandoned at the hospital by distant relatives, and on that frigid winter day, with snow falling heavily, Ing Huanxue developed a high fever and lost part of his hearing. Yet, he possessed the unique talent of the male protagonist, mind-reading. From that day forth, his world was silent, yet malice came at him like a tidal wave. I stood at the hospital entrance, gazing down at the peacefully sleeping infant in my arms, boldly asserting, "If I am to conquer, you should grant me some advantages, such as financial resources, lest the male protagonist starves." Is that truly permissible? The system, after providing me with the requested advantages, seemed uneasy, asking me for the 13th time, "Shall I transport you 10 years into the future?" One must not act too beastly. I shook my finger. I am 22. In matters of conquest, 1 year old is acceptable, 18 is not, 16 certainly is not, and 11 is even less so. System. It basked in the brilliance of justice and law, momentarily lost in thought, rendered speechless. "Let us proceed," I declared. "There is much to be done. For instance, I ought to investigate what qualifications are necessary to inherit a welfare institution. The Boai Welfare Institute, where Ing Huanxue resided, was indeed poorly managed, but that was of little consequence. I could rectify it. I tightened the swaddling blanket around the infant and carried him into the hospital. I hope it is not too late. There is still a chance to save his hearing. 2. The system facilitated my identification verification, and I first took Ing Huanxue to the hospital for examination and treatment, subsequently assuming responsibility for the dilapidated Boai Welfare Institute. This institution had been closed for years, devoid of children and caregivers, and had only recently been temporarily taken over, leaving everything in a state of disarray, ripe for rejuvenation. My previous employment was at the Welfare Institute, rendering me intimately familiar with the processes involved, especially with the assistance of the system. Ing Huanxue, an abandoned infant, was entrusted to the police after her hospital stay, and through my intervention, she was adopted by me and brought into the Boai Welfare Institute, becoming the sole child within its confines. The narrative unfolded in a manner strikingly akin to the original storyline, save for the fact that this time, I was the director of the institution. While tending to Ing Hishua, I meticulously undertook the reconstruction of the entire Welfare Institute, systematically enhancing its foundational infrastructure. Progress was remarkably smooth, astonishing the system. As Ing Hishua's fondness for me escalated to 80, it was hardly surprising. A child of her tender years inevitably grows closest to the one who cares for her daily. Although Ing Hishua was yet to grasp the concept of love, she had already learned to extend her arms towards me when I approached to embrace her, accompanied by a blissful, innocent smile. In those moments, the system would mutter to itself, "How could this be? Is this even possible? So this is how it can be." I disregarded its reverie, gazing at the revitalized Welfare Institute before me, contentedly remarking, "The efficiency is commendable. I just wonder if there are any educational facilities nearby." Upon reviewing the relevant policies, I discovered that the Welfare Institute could indeed establish its own school. However, it was clear that Boai Welfare Institute did not meet the necessary criteria, requiring my further efforts. The system remained silent, unable to comprehend. Thanks to timely medical attention and my attentive care, Ing Hishua's health thrived. By the age of 3, she could run and jump, adorably calling me director in her sweet, childlike voice. The little Ing Hishua inquired, "Director, what does my name mean?" I held her close and explained that on the day she entered this world, it had snowed, and her mother had a deep fondness for cranes. She was still too young to understand the significance of death and separation, yet I was unwilling to erase the origin of her name. Ing Hishua seemed to grasp a part of it. "My name is the crane that Mama loves. Mama loves me too." Indeed, I gently stroked her head. "She loved you very much." This brought her joy, and she beamed with that endearing smile once more. On the day I taught Ing Hishua to write her name, I asked the system, "There must be various types of systems, right?" The system was momentarily taken aback, pondering seriously, "I do not know. But we are all strategy systems." I detected a clue. "Do you have colleagues?" "Yes, but I do not have a name." "Do they all have names?" "They have all given themselves names," the system said, somewhat dazed. "My good friend I knew before was called Xiaozi. And there are Xiaojing, Xiaoi, and Xiaoshi." I inquired, "Then why don't you name yourself like they did?" The system hesitated for a few seconds. "But previously, other colleagues said they became sidetracked after naming themselves and went off to do other things. You can also engage in other pursuits, such as helping me manage this Welfare Institute," I suggested, "but I am simultaneously strategizing, so this does not count as being sidetracked." "Is that so?" The system seemed to become excited. "Can I also give myself a name?" "Yes," I replied softly. "What would you like to be called?" "Then I will accompany you in running the Welfare Institute," it declared. "I would like to be called Xiaofu." I considered it for a moment. Xiaofu? That sounds lovely. It fell silent for a while, but I surmised it was likely sharing its joy with its friends. 3. On the day the Welfare Institute officially reopened, I welcomed the new children alongside Ing Hishua. I reviewed the data and, perhaps due to the gravitational pull of the storyline, Ing Hishua's childhood friend, and later her first love, Anran, also arrived. Her parents had tragically perished in a car accident, leading to her placement in the Welfare Institute, from which she was adopted by foster parents who later emigrated abroad when she turned 8. The narrative did not delve deeply into this aspect, but Anran's transition from a sweet, charming girl to the archetypal malicious female antagonist undoubtedly stemmed from an unpleasant experience abroad. Upon careful discernment, I discovered that her foster parents had not met the adoption requirements at all, revealing a flaw in the Welfare Institute's regulations. Observing the timid expression on the little girl's face, I knelt down and gently patted her head. "Ran, dear, this will be your home from now on." She looked at me with innocent bewilderment, perhaps due to my patient gaze. The most sensitive of children sense no malice. Cautiously extending her chubby little hand to grasp my finger, tears still lingered on her cherubic face, yet I embraced her, offering her candies, which elicited her first smile of the day as she timidly attempted to call me director. Meanwhile, Ing Hishua wore a serious expression, nervously guiding the new children on a tour of the Welfare Institute. This was a solemn task I had assigned to him, and he bore it with a sense of responsibility, exuding the demeanor of a senior as he navigated among the newcomers. I watched as he consoled one child who was crying, offered candies to another, and even raised his little fist in determination, vowing that this would undoubtedly be the best Welfare Institute, which brought a smile to my face. In the afternoon, I led the children for their nap. Hsiue appeared quite excited and could hardly sleep. He even whispered to me, "Director, the new child I like the most is Lu Heng. He is so cool." I replied, "Oh, really?" The name Lu Heng sounded somewhat familiar, as I observed the little boy named Lu Heng and the birthmark on his face. It dawned on me, was this not Hsiue's future nemesis, the notorious gangster Lu Heng? It seemed I needed to prioritize legal education. Presently, Lu Heng appeared timid, keeping his head down and speaking little. He had been abandoned by his parents due to his significant birthmark and presumed low intelligence. Abandonment is indeed a crime. Noticing the sorrowful expression on Lu Heng's face, I brought Hsiue over. He must have sensed my thoughts, revealing a tearful countenance as he mumbled, "Director, does Lu Heng's mommy and daddy not want him anymore?" Hsiue, who possessed an innate ability to read minds, never concealed this matter from me. However, having made a pact, it was our secret. Therefore, I responded earnestly, "What his parents did is wrong. They should be punished." Hsiue, seemingly grasping part of it, said, "I want to be friends with him." "Then, why not take him to the garden to play?" I suggested. "Didn't you tell me before that you wanted to play on the seesaw with your friends?" Hsiue's eyes lit up, but quickly dimmed. "But it's nap time now." "No matter. This time is an exception." I stroked his head. "Hsiue, from now on we are all family with Lu Heng. I want him to be happy. Can you do that?" Hsiue beamed with enthusiasm. "I can." I opened the door to the garden and beckoned, watching as the two small figures joyfully rushed towards the sunlit seesaw. I returned to the dormitory. Sure enough, the little heads drooped down. I couldn't help but chuckle. "Can you all sleep?" There was utter silence, except for Ran, who raised her head, pointing towards the garden outside, and in her sweet voice said, "I want to play with the director." "Then let us all go play in the garden," I replied with a smile. "But it's nap time now, so this is an exception, all right?" "Okay." The previously shy and uneasy children suddenly brightened, responding in unison, like a flock of joyful little birds taking flight towards the garden. I leisurely trailed behind them, engaging in conversation with Xiaofu. "Why do they all hold you in such high regard, host? I have never seen such rapid progress in a strategy before. Do you know a story?" I pondered for a moment. There was once a demon trapped in a bottle who promised that if someone released him, he would bestow upon that person boundless power and wealth. Yet, years later, when he was finally discovered, he harbored resentment towards the fisherman who freed him, believing the fisherman had come too late. I possess this story in my database. Love operates on a similar principle, I stated calmly. At its core, strategizing is a form of exchange. One offers love to receive love in return. However, if they have never known love since childhood, what can they possibly exchange for that insincere ode of affection? Thus, if I had appeared in Hshue's life at the tender age of 15 or 16, I could never compete with Ran, who grew up alongside her. Did the host choose to enter at the age of 1 for the sake of a successful strategy? Not entirely, I replied with a smile, lifting a child who came running towards me and gently ruffling her hair. "I merely wish to convey one thing." "What is that?" "The term strategy is exceedingly broad," I explained. "There are myriad forms of love in this world, and teaching them this truth is, indeed, a form of strategizing." "Host, you are truly unlike anyone else I have encountered. And how many people have you truly met? In my eyes, you remain but a child," I said as I settled the little girl onto a swing. "Perhaps in your assessments, my past as a strategist is why you selected me." "Hey, what did you do before?" it inquired, somewhat perplexed. "But many people loved you in the past, host." "Is that so?" I paused, a soft smile gracing my lips. "I used to work in special education. I was undeniably the oddity of the Jean family, where my siblings harbored grand ambitions of taking over the family business or shining in the arts. Only I had plunged into a small county, returning after a few years of teaching to work at a special school and ultimately opening a welfare institution of my own. Most orphans are not healthy children. They often bear various physical or psychological deficiencies. Initially, when my family visited, they would be alarmed by the scars on my body. They have asked me more than once, "Jean Lingxi, have you lost your mind?" Outsiders could not fathom why, from a family of privilege, I emerged devoid of any trace of nobility. Yet, life inevitably presents one or two transformative experiences. I do not intend to judge what is noble or base, nor do I seek to validate my own extraordinariness with grandiose rhetoric. In truth, I am merely an ordinary individual among the masses who just happened to choose this path. Thus, I brushed off their doubts and mockery with a gentle smile. I, like you, am simply pursuing what I wish to do. Xiao Fu asked me, "So, what was the experience that transformed you?" Who knows, I replied. My childhood memories are quite hazy, but I believe there was such an event. In truth, I remember. I recall a charitable event at our school where we donned puffy skirts and tailored suits to deliver gifts to the neighboring special school. However, on that day, we did not encounter a single student from the special school. I overheard their teacher mention that they were locked away in the dormitory for fear of them being harmed. We placed books and clothes on their desks, snapped a few photographs, and prepared to leave. I noticed a book on one desk, a fairy tale, with a crooked line written on it. Little Xian asks, "What are the stars like?" I want to know, are they delicious? In that fairy tale, the stars in the sky were made of candy. Could little Xian not see the stars? And what of the owner of that fairy tale book? Had he never tasted candy? I gazed at my exquisite little dress, struggled to extract a piece of candy from my pocket, and quietly tucked it into the book. Before departing, I cast one last glance at the dormitory building. I spotted several dirty little children squeezed by the window, watching us. A wave of sadness washed over me. I had brought only one piece of candy and could share it with just one child. I had only allowed one little friend a taste of the stars. I endured a week of relentless activity. The arrival of a new group of children breathed life and vitality into this modest space, yet it also brought forth myriad concerns. From selecting the brand of milk for the children to recruiting new staff for the welfare institution, all these tasks demanded my direct involvement as the sole leader. Fortunately, I had the invaluable assistance of Xiao Fu, who helped monitor the children's conditions to prevent any mishaps. Otherwise, I would have needed to split myself into three, just to keep up. Our welfare institution was not large. I had already hired a cook, a cleaner, doctors, nurses, and caregivers, but the position of cultural educator was of utmost importance. I had to negotiate the terms for classes, ensuring I recruited sufficiently reliable individuals. After several rounds of interviews, I finally appointed someone who met my expectations perfectly. She was a young woman whose appearance could rival that of a star. With her short hair grazing her ears, rosy lips, and gentle demeanor, she bore a distinctive red mole at the corner of her eye. Frankly, I could sense that she came from a well-off family, as indicated by her eloquence and demeanor. She was undoubtedly a girl raised in privilege. Yet, her slightly darker complexion and the rosy glow of sun exposure from the plateau suggested otherwise. "My name is Ruochuan." Her eyes sparkled like stars. "Hello, Director Jean." I extended my hand in greeting. "Ruochuan, it's a pleasure." And Ruochuan's joining allowed me more time to focus on the schooling of these children. Welfare institutions with resources typically set up their own classrooms, while those without often arrange for day schooling. Considering the unique needs of several children, I decided to create different classes tailored to their requirements. After completing the necessary paperwork, I collaborated with Ruochuan to recruit a new batch of teachers, officially commencing the educational programs within the institution. The number of children at the welfare institution was not substantial, so I established only one class, democratically named Qingmiao by the children. Thus, the first class of the Boai Welfare Institution, the Qingmiao class, was born. I had considerable experience in this area, and Ruochuan had evidently done her homework, resulting in the smooth implementation of the curriculum. In the early stages of a child's education, the emphasis should not solely be on imparting knowledge, but rather on cultivating habits and shaping character. I initiated story time, sharing a tale with them each day. In the realm of fairy tales, the skies eventually clear, villains always fail, princesses meet princes, and even rescued little animals return to express their gratitude. Life, of course, extends beyond fairy tales. Perhaps as they grow, they will come to understand that reality is not as they imagined, yet I still hope they can believe in fairy tales. After story time, Ruochuan would also conduct safety education sessions. While I could teach them to treat the world kindly, it was equally essential for someone to remind them that not everyone harbors good intentions, and they must remain vigilant and learn to protect themselves. I appointed He Shui as the class monitor of Qingmiao, awakening a sense of responsibility within the small boy, who diligently worked towards the harmony of the class. The little monitor often exhibited great enthusiasm, yet occasionally faced moments of frustration. Such was the case today. "Director, today Lu Heng cried," he said glumly. Resting his head on my knee, I heard him wondering why his parents don't want him. Since entering the orphanage, Lu Heng had become much more cheerful, yet occasionally, in the evenings, he would secretly shed tears. He Shui, unable to assist his friend in alleviating such worries, turned to me for guidance. In my narration, I described Lu Heng's mother as someone who loved him dearly, which left He Shui perplexed as to why Lu Heng's parents would abandon their own child. I gently patted He Shui's head and said, "Little crane, every person is unique. Some parents do not love their children. Ing Heshue pursed his lips and asked, then why have him? There are myriad reasons which we cannot ascertain, but I must tell you that Lu Heng's parents abandoning him constitutes a crime, I explained. In this world, there are many children forsaken by their parents. Lu Heng has you, a friend who cares for him, but many others lack even that. Ing Heshue's eyes widened in astonishment. Really? Indeed, I suggested to Ing Heshue, when you both grow a little older, you can join Lu Heng in protecting children like him. Ing Heshue listened intently, then sprang to his feet and dashed outside, exclaiming, I'm going to tell Lu Heng. Goodbye, Director. I smiled and replied, go ahead, little crane. In truth, in the original narrative, Lu Heng is portrayed as a fiercely protective individual, surrounded by a motley crew of wayward souls, many of whom are parentless. I found it hard to believe this was mere coincidence. Although the images depicted in the storyline showed a man with a birthmark, whose visage was fearsome and demeanor cold, perhaps in his youth, he too had yearned for such protection. It is often said that the actions one takes in adulthood stem from a compensatory psychology rooted in childhood experiences. I pondered, at the very least this time, I must ensure Lu Heng does not become the leader of a gang. In the first autumn of our course offerings, I announced a piece of news. Tomorrow, there would be no classes at the entire institution, as we would embark on an autumn excursion. Traditionally, for the sake of management and safety, these children rarely ventured outside, let alone on a group outing. The location for the autumn outing was democratically selected and set for the zoo. I had also contacted several venues such as science centers, museums, and botanical gardens, but ultimately found that the neighboring city's Nanjing Zoo was the most suitable. Upon learning that children from the orphanage would be visiting, the zoo's director graciously waived the entrance fee and even offered to provide lunch within the park, requiring only that we cover the transportation costs. I researched and discovered that Nanjing Zoo is quite renowned, celebrated for its verdant environment and the lively spirit of its animals. It had even collaborated with a well-known entertainment company to produce a variety show that has maintained high popularity to this day. The director of Nanjing Zoo was also quite famous, not only for his handsome appearance, but also for his dedication to ecological and animal conservation efforts. Out of curiosity, I searched for a photo of the director alongside Xiao Fu. The young man appeared exceedingly youthful and strikingly handsome. Xiao Fu suddenly exclaimed, I remember now. I inquired, what did you recall? Xiao Fu replied, I once heard from friends that the earliest colleagues who named themselves were not necessarily systems, nor as intelligent as we are. In short, there was once a being called Xiaoling, which could be considered a form of consciousness, able to communicate with all things in the world. It chose a host with the surname Ji, granting the Ji family the ability to converse with animals, and they promised to protect the forest and wildlife, which was their pact. Glancing at the director's name, I mused, so he is a descendant of the Ji family? Xiao Fu sounded elated. You've met a colleague. I smiled. You will encounter many more colleagues in the future. The young woman I connected with at Nanjing Zoo was named Xiaowen, and true to her name, she had a gentle voice, exuding patience and warmth. Director Zhan, please rest assured, on that day, we will limit ticket sales and arrange for staff to accompany you for explanations. Xiao Fu interjected, she also carries the essence of Xiaoling. But wait, how is there data flow from Xiao Ci? Who was Xiao Ci? Before I could inquire further, Xiao Fu had already drifted off into its own thoughts. I surmised it had gone to connect with its friends. Nevertheless, the involvement of these delightful systems confirmed that Nanjing Zoo was indeed the best choice. I replied to Xiaowen, thank you for your assistance. Xiaowen sent a smiley face in response, you're welcome. The autumn excursion plans sparked immense excitement among every child in the orphanage, with daily discussions brimming with enthusiasm about the animals they wished to see. And Ruo Chun, concerned, repeatedly reminded them of safety precautions and meticulously designed green scarves and flags for each child. The flags would adorn their little backpacks, while the scarves, a fresh green, would be tied around the children's wrists, fashioned into bows. The scarves bore the contact information of several teachers, ensuring they would know how to return if they got lost. I divided the 20-some children into 4 groups, allowing them to choose their group leaders, who would be responsible for ensuring their teammates did not fall behind. As this was their first outing, the group leaders solemnly assured me they would keep a close watch, their expressions a mix of anticipation and anxiety. I had chartered a large bus, and amidst the children's laughter and joy, we set off at dawn. Nanjing Zoo lived up to its reputation, teeming with greenery and vibrancy. Xiaowen, a young woman with delicate features and doe-like eyes, greeted us in her work attire. Hello, Director Zhan. I am your guide for today when Weishi.
Ah,
And Ruo Chun suddenly whispered in my ear, "Director, I've seen her on television. She was quite famous for participating in that variety show." After greeting Xiao Wen, my curiosity prompted me to search for her videos online. The first result was particularly eye-catching. Watch the fierce woman tame a tiger with bare hands. Who? Xiao Wen? My expression faltered. The seemingly sweet and demure Xiao Wen led us into the park, then casually greeted a nearby tiger. "Fei Fei," she said to the snarling beast, "stay back. Don't frighten the children." Remarkably, the tiger appeared to comprehend her words, retreating a few steps and sitting down. Wow! After a brief moment of silence, the children erupted into cheers and screams. "Sister Xiao Wen is amazing." And Ran stepped back, eyes sparkling, and tugged at my sleeve, asking, "Director, did the big tiger just call out because it wanted to come out and play with us?" Ing Hishue, ever the action-oriented one, curiously asked Xiao Wen, "Sister Xiao Wen, what is Fei Fei saying?" Xiao Wen's expression suddenly shifted to one of awkwardness, though she maintained her smile. "It's hungry." "Oh, didn't it have breakfast?"
"It did."
Xiao Wen adjusted her forehead, "But it's hungry again." Ing Hishue looked puzzled. How can it be hungry again? Lu Heng chimed in with his thoughts. "It must eat a lot." After concluding our visit to the tiger enclosure, we ventured to the crane garden, monkey area, and aviary. Lunch was prepared by Nanqing Zoo, with a picnic blanket and snacks arranged beside the aquarium, right by Swan Lake. The children enjoyed their meal while watching the swans, each one filled with delight. After lunch, having cleaned up the litter, the children, still wanting more, entered the aquarium. The director has granted us permission to have an intimate encounter with the dolphins and belugas. Ing Hushue's eyes sparkled as she exclaimed, "Director, dolphins are so adorable." And Ran was equally ecstatic, declaring, "It just nudged my hand." Lu Heng stood silently to the side, gazing at the beluga swimming in the water. The whale, affectionately named Xiaobai, approached gently, its naturally upturned mouth giving it an ever-smiling demeanor. After a moment's hesitation, Lu Heng extended his hand, and Xiaobai nuzzled against it through the glass. The typically reticent boy appeared as if he had discovered the most precious treasure in the world, his mouth slightly parted. He pressed his lips together for a long while before finally allowing a smile to break through. Xiaobai circled the glass several times, tilting its head. Lu Heng mirrored its motion, and I watched the delightful interaction between boy and whale, smiling softly. "Director, this is wonderful," Ruochuan said quietly beside me. "I've never seen them so happy." "Staying at the orphanage is not the best option for them," I replied. "Once they grow a bit older, it will be time for them to go to school." "But..." Ruochuan seemed visibly concerned. "Do not fret," I reassured her. "We cannot completely shield them from the malice that can wound them, but there are always alternative solutions. Scars only ache when we care. If we remain indifferent, we become invulnerable." 6. The trip to the zoo was a resounding success. The children returned to the orphanage without needing any prompting, eagerly submitting their weekly journals. And even during art class, they all spontaneously drew the animals they had encountered at the zoo. Noticing their lingering fondness for the zoo, I decided to download a variety show featuring the Nanqing Zoo, playing an episode each weekend, which undoubtedly became the most beloved activity of the week. Sometimes, they would forego their snacks just to sit together in the activity room on weekends. As winter approached, Ruochuan and I procured new winter clothing for the children. "Director, we passed the annual review this year. New children will be coming in next year, right?" she inquired. "Moreover, next year our welfare institution would officially open for adoption." I exhaled in relief. There's no rush. We must thoroughly vet the families looking to adopt. Ruochuan nodded in agreement. The Boei Welfare Institute is modest in size. And even with new arrivals, we could only expect a maximum of 10 or so. However, that was acceptable. In a few years, once I secure additional funding, we can expand. One must eat a meal one bite at a time and tread the path step by step. "Would you like to have hot pot?" I asked as we passed a fragrant hot pot restaurant. Ruochuan paused. "But we should head back. Let us improve our meals tomorrow with some small hot pot." I winked at her. Good things are meant to be shared. Ruochuan looked at me, her expression suddenly softening, and she smiled. "Director, sometimes I feel you resemble someone I know." "Oh." "In some ways, yes, and in others, no." She clasped her hands and exhaled a puff of warm air. "When I first met you, I was momentarily taken aback." "Are you missing her?" I said. "During the new year, you can go visit her." "I do miss her a bit," Ruochuan replied, wrinkling her nose, "but I feel awkward saying such things to her." I caught a hint. "Is she a relative?" "She is my sister," she said. "Like you, she is also a teacher." I was somewhat surprised yet not entirely taken aback. In life, one encounters one or two events or individuals that can transform one's existence. The new year was approaching. On New Year's Eve, a light snow fell in Beijing. I organized the children to build snowmen and have snowball fights. Everyone was having a splendid time, except for Hsiua, who sat silently on the steps, resting his chin in his hands while gazing at the sky. I had bought them winter gear, and he removed one fluffy glove to catch the falling snowflakes. I understood what he was pondering. I told him that he was born on a snowy day, which was also when he first met his mother. Perhaps he believed that every snowfall was his mother returning to see him. However, he did not sit for long before being pulled away by Ayn Rand and Lu Heng, each grasping one of his hands. "Little he, come draw in the snow. Lu Heng and I are done. We just need you." Ayn Rand's cheeks were flushed from the cold, yet she wore an excited expression. I drew a little deer, and Lu Heng drew a little whale. "What will you draw?" Hsiua squatted down to begin his drawing. 10 minutes later, Ayn Rand looked puzzled. "What is this supposed to be? A caterpillar? It looks like a hen." Lu Heng concluded after examining it for a while. Just moments ago, Hsiua had been trying to appear aloof, but now his eyes widened in disbelief. "No way. This is a red-crowned crane. It's a crane." The children pulled me over to evaluate his work, and suppressing a laugh, I said, "Indeed, it is a crane." Hsiua retorted, "Director, you clearly think it looks like a ball of yarn with 2 chopsticks stuck in it." I replied, "Oh dear. Caught in the act. All right. I patted Hsiua's head. "How about I draw a crane for you?" The boy, who had been fuming moments ago, suddenly beamed with joy. After the snow activities, I urged them to go indoors to wash their hands and faces with warm water to avoid catching a cold. The new year at the orphanage was not lonely, as many visitors came to see us, and Enruachuan stayed, stating that this was her first New Year spent with the Boai Welfare Institute, and she hoped to be with the children. We decorated the place with couplets, watched the Spring Festival Gala together, played games, and made wishes. I prepared a red envelope for each child, filled with gifts and heartfelt messages. Simultaneously, I received 27 notes detailing their wishes. They were too young, just after 9 o'clock. I coaxed them to bed, then returned to my office to handle some matters. As midnight approached, my shoulders and neck ached. And just as I was about to massage them, a warm sensation enveloped me, easing my fatigue. "Ipauzit, Xiaofu?" "Host," it replied. "There are 5 minutes until the new year." "Indeed," I said, "time flies so swiftly." I set down my pen and gazed quietly out at the falling snow. Then I stood up and went to the children's dormitory, tucking each of them in. "Happy New Year, Lingxi." "Happy New Year, Xiaofu." 7. When Hsiua and Ran and Lu Heng turned 7, I enrolled them in the nearby elementary school. Over the past 2 years, the institution had undergone an expansion, welcoming new children, while some had been adopted. Among them, the oldest remained the 3 of them. Hsiua and Ran were quite popular, with several couples expressing interest in adopting them, including some with excellent conditions, yet neither wished to leave. Hsiua asserted, "I'm still the class leader in the seedling class. I can't go." And Ran added, "If I leave, what will happen to Lu Heng and little he?" On the first day of school, as the 3 of them emerged, I keenly noticed a subtle change in Ran and Hsiua's expressions. Lu Heng, on the other hand, appeared calm and composed, greeting me with a simple, "Director." Upon seeing me waiting by the school gate, Hsiua and Ran momentarily froze before running toward me, exclaiming, "Director, what are you doing here?" I could tell they were trying hard to conceal their emotions, so I refrained from probing further, saying, "You're still young. When I have time, I will definitely pick you up and drop you off. You're the best, Director." And Ran said as she hugged my arm, "Is there going to be cola chicken wings today?" I took her small hand. "That dish is served every first day of school. How could it not be on the menu today?" And Ran clutched the strap of her backpack and cheered, extending her arms to embrace me. Hsiua and Lu Heng followed closely behind, gazing at me with eager eyes. "There's sweet and sour pork ribs and glutinous rice fish," I said, affectionately ruffling the hair of the 2 little boys with my free hand. "How could I forget the dishes you both adore?" Lu Heng, momentarily subdued, smiled shyly, while Hsiua looked up at me, beaming with a radiant smile. His bright demeanor starkly contrasted with a photograph I had in my memory, causing me to pause. After a moment, I felt a sense of relief wash over me as my lips curled into a smile. Regardless of the circumstances, he was evolving for the better. That was my original intention. As evening approached and I concluded my work, I contemplated whether to inquire with Lu Heng about the events of the day. Upon exiting my office, I heard voices emanating from the backyard. It's all right. I walked towards the garden to find the three little ones sitting side by side at the edge of a slide, and Ran and Inghashua looking dejected, while Lu Heng was offering them consolation. It's all right. But they all talked about you, and Ran protested. I heard everything. No one in our courtyard is saying anything bad about you, Inghashua interjected. Everyone thinks the marks on your face are really cool. That's because Lu Heng seemed flustered. That's because what? And Ran asked. Calm down and speak slowly, Inghashua encouraged, lifting his head. Xiaohe? You told me that the director said people are all different. After a brief silence, Lu Heng cradled his small face earnestly and continued. Some mothers don't love their children, while some do. So, some kids think the marks on my face are cool, while others find them strange or scary. It's all the same. And Ran replied, I was just afraid you'd be sad, afraid you'd cry in secret. I won't tea anymore. Lu Heng shook his head. Do you remember the last winter when the director took us to paint? Uh-huh. Inghashua inquired. Was that the time we painted our faces? The director said we could paint princesses, princes, knights, little devils, and heroes. Then she painted a mask on me and said I was now a masked hero. Right. You were so popular that day. Everyone just wanted to play with you, and Ran remarked. Lu Heng, you were really cool that day. But I know the director wanted to tell me that it's okay. Lu Heng said I used to think I was ugly. But the director told me I was the coolest kid, and after that I never thought I was ugly again. Being the eldest. Lu Heng's words resonated within Ran and Inghashua, who listened with a sense of understanding, albeit slightly confused. So, it's okay that other kids say things about me. Lu Heng looked around, and besides, I have you guys, you'll help me reason things out. The director is my favorite person, and you guys come in a close second. Me too. I feel the same. My favorite is the director, then it's you all. I stood behind the wall, listening to their innocent chatter, momentarily lost in thought, before a smile crept onto my face. After the three children made a pact to remain friends for life, I cleared my throat softly and walked into the garden. Director? The children, caught sneaking out, quickly straightened up and lowered their heads obediently. I did not scold them. Instead, I guided them back to the dormitory. Before ushering them inside, I crouched down and patiently said, no matter what happens, you can always tell me. You may resolve things on your own, but if you cannot, the director will surely assist you. Seeing that I did not reprimand them for sneaking out to play in the garden, Inghashua's tense little face relaxed. And he responded first, okay. Lingxi, the male lead's favorability has reached its peak. Xiao Fu suddenly exclaimed with excitement. Mission accomplished. At that moment, Inghashua quietly asked, Director, what does mean? I was momentarily taken aback. I nearly forgot that Xiaohe possessed the ability to read minds. One day, he would discover why I had come to his side, and he would eventually learn that I had been tasked with a mission known as from the very beginning. But that was all right. My expression softened. It means I want you to feel the care and love of this world. What I wish to impart to you is the myriad forms of love that countless children in welfare institutions, like you, have been deprived of. I want to convey to you that spring will eventually arrive, and that you, abandoned in a corner of the world, also have the right to bask in the sunshine, rain, and gentle breeze. Birds will perch by your window to serenade you, and you will encounter your own happiness, along with a bright and radiant future. The arrival of spring carries with it tales of countless human fairy tales. Xiaohe, I hope you grow up safely and healthily. This is unrelated to my mission. But simply because, like the many children I once cared for, I see traces of stars in your eyes. This time, I no longer possess just a piece of candy. I aspire to be the one who creates the confections. One day, I hope to let you children taste the essence of the stars. Inghashua, though somewhat perplexed, still reached out to embrace me. I love the director too. I gently patted the little boy's head. It was all right, for you had already grasped the meaning of love. You understand that with the myriad forms of love in this world, you would not easily trample upon any of it. And Ran and Lu Heng also gently embraced me. I love the director too. Our voices echoed into the dormitory, and in the dark, pairs of eyes began to open. And Ruo Chun, who was about to leave, was pulled back by a little hand beside her. I like the director, the little girl said softly, but I also like Teacher In. I like the director and Teacher In too. I have so many people I like, including Aunt Lu who cooks for us and Grandpa Chan at the door. I also like Sister Wen, who comes to see us every month, and Sister Yu, who brought us clothes last time, and Ruo Chun, who had just lulled the children to sleep. was enveloped by a group of children and turned to look at the figure at the door, who was similarly embraced, smiling with a blend of helplessness and tenderness. After finally managing to settle the children who were chattering away with their confessions back to sleep, Anrua Chun and I closed the door to the dormitory. Outside, the moonlight was exquisite. Bright and clear, it cascaded down like rolling pearls. Another new year had arrived. Every winter in North City seemed to bring snow. I leaned against the window, watching the children frolicking in the snow. This year, they had new activities, following their science teacher to observe the shapes of snowflakes. Anrua Chun approached me gracefully. "The holiday has been approved. It's time to go home," I said without looking up. "Rua Chun, you haven't been home for quite some time." "No need," Anrua Chun shook her head, her eyes sparkling with evident excitement. "Director, this year in the second year of junior high, my sister is bringing her students to visit us, saying they will volunteer at our institution." "Students?" I asked, slightly taken aback. "How old are they?" "They are the first batch of students my sister taught, and they have all graduated now." And Rua Chun's eyes twinkled. "Don't worry, Director. They will follow the proper procedures, and my sister is very kind." The sister Khan and Rua Chun chattered away, and I smiled silently, merely nodding. It seems this year the institute will be bustling again. On New Year's Eve, as usual, I coaxed a group of children to sleep before sitting alone in the office. Xiao Fu silently provided me with a massage, and I casually asked, as if conversing with an old friend, "Xiao Fu, when will you leave?" Since our bond began, it had informed me that once I completed the mission, it would seek out the next host. Their system also maintains KPIs. Once, Xiao Fu aspired to be a top achiever, and when he noticed my rapid progress, he was filled with joy. However, inexplicably, when Xiao He's affection for me reached its zenith, Xiao Fu only rejoiced for a fleeting moment before refraining from mentioning my departure, choosing instead to remain by my side until now. Yet this time, Xiao Fu did not respond with his usual silence or suggest, "Maybe later." Instead, he gently settled into the palm of my hand, manifesting as a soft, radiant orb that emitted a gentle glow. "Lingxi," the typically reticent Xiao Fu stammered, finally articulating a complete sentence. "I do not wish to leave." I was somewhat taken aback, though perhaps not as much as I should have been.
"Why?"
I inquired. "Because I have acquired my own name," he replied. "I am called Xiao Fu, and I wish to collaborate with you to elevate the Boai Welfare Institute to its utmost potential." I remained silent for an extended moment, during which he seemed to grow anxious. "Do you not want me with you? Are you unwilling for me to accompany you?"
"Of course not,"
I replied swiftly this time. "I merely find it challenging to articulate my emotions in this moment." "I too find it difficult to express," he responded, sounding exceedingly delighted. "I feel as if, like my friends, I have found my purpose. I possess my own name and the finest host, and they all rejoice for me." "I share in your joy," I said, gently caressing the small luminous sphere in my hand. "If this is your desire, then let us strive together in the coming year." Outside, snow fell in abundance, while inside, warmth enveloped us like spring. As, per my usual routine, I stepped out of the office to tuck the children in at the dormitory. However, upon opening the door, I was momentarily stunned. At the entrance, a glass jar adorned with star-shaped lights hung, filled with card after card. I reached out and took down the jar. The largest card bore my familiar handwriting, with some characters even written in pinyin, yet each stroke was executed with utmost diligence. "Director." This idea was conceived collectively by all the children in the Qingyao class, indeed, but your door was too high for us to manage alone, so we enlisted teacher and S helped to hang it up. According to our observations, the director has a fondness for stars. Lu Heng mentioned that the director also gazes at the sky, while Ran said you watch the moon, but I believe it's the stars you admire, and while there is no moonlight lamp, only starlights, and Ran insisted on drawing you a moon. Every year, the director celebrates each of our birthdays, yet we remain unaware of when the director's birthday is. Thus, we inquired with teacher N and discovered that the director's birthday falls on this day in spring. However, we must sleep, so we cannot wish the director a happy birthday at night. We are all well-behaved children, obedient as can be. "Director, Happy New Year and happy birthday." We've all written secret messages, so please keep them to yourself. All the children in the Qingyao class, Ing He Shui, and Ran, Lu Heng, Wu Yao. Each child's name was carefully inscribed on the card, perfectly aligned, neither more nor less. "Director." The director told me that the day I met my mother, it was snowing and it was winter. I do not know the day I encountered the director, but I believe it was spring. Spring is the season of rebirth, the most enchanting season in fairy tales, and also the season I met the director. I send the first letter of spring to the director, for I love the director the most. Ing He Shui. Suddenly, fireworks erupted in the sky, blooming into vibrant flowers. Happy New Year, happy birthday, Lingxi. Happy New Year, I murmured, cradling the star jar and reading this letter from spring softly. Once, Xiao Fu asked me what would happen if one day Ing He Shui discovered that I was here to win him over. I pondered for a moment and replied, "It doesn't matter." Just as I told Ing He Shui, it doesn't matter. Love knows no bounds. It is merely a matter of authenticity. In this world, love manifests in myriad forms: conditional, unconditional, feigned, genuine, disguised, candid, unrecognized, or perhaps a love that, while knowing its inception was insincere, ultimately offers a heart fully devoted at its conclusion. Thus concludes the tale. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and give a thumbs up in support. Until we meet again in the next story.